Are we live? Sorry, I'm a little bit out of practice with this, eh? Are we good? Are we live? I don't know. I think we are. I just heard Discord go off. I can see Rump Shaker in the chat. Sup, Rump Shaker, how are you doing? Hopefully you're well. Sup, Omabala, hopefully you're well too. We are live, yes. Sorry for being late. Hi Jacob, how you doing? Welcome to the live stream where today we're back to do requests. If you've got songs you want to get checked out, let me know. Wow, so many people. It's good to see everyone. Happy New Year to you watching this, as this is the first one of 2026. And hopefully you all have had a fantastic Happy New Year so far. You guys got any stories for New Year's? Anything you're up to? Mine was pretty chill. We just watched Year One, the movie with Jack Black and Michael Cera in it. That was a good movie, kind of funny, you know. Yeah, so my holidays were fine. Thank you, Rump Shaker. Hopefully yours were too. We'll switch over to Spotify here, where we've got everything on here. It's good. It's good to have the green screen back. Also been trying to make a few other improvements. I'm just realizing, is that... Oh, is it cutting you guys off a little bit? No, it should be fine. I'm worried I'm gonna spoof myself a little bit. No, it's exactly where it needs to be. That's exactly where it needs to be. Yep, that's... Oh, nope, it's slightly out. Man. Really is pedantic, isn't it? There we go. Good. Just trying a new layout with the green screen so that things look a little bit more semi-professional. I had to work, so it was gnarly for almost 7 days straight, but now I've got 3 days off. Well, hopefully you have a fantastic 3 days off. Hopefully you have a fantastic time. Sup, Casey? Welcome to the live stream. Hopefully you're well too. Yeah, it's good to see a lot of requests. So I'm just going to start adding these. I'm just going to do the thing I used to do where I just added the entire set at once, and we kind of just went through them. And I'm just going to separate them as well, so it's easier for me to figure out what's going on. There we go. Good job. Here we go. And that's fine. Yeah. But I will try it. So, Weber, how you doing? Hopefully you're well too. Code. Leifei. Good. Some more Leifei. Tyson Yoshi, that guy. Man the Fur. Here we got Drum Shake there. Escape to the Void, Sepultura. 9 Treasures, Indecision. So we've got a busy one today. You guys have got a lot of tracks sent through. I don't mind that at all, by the way. I think it's good. We're here for 1.5 hours, just because I'm still getting my bearings. I've got a few other reviews to do as well today. So we're not going to muck around, but we'll see how many of these we can get done. Just a friendly reminder as well that these will be full song analysis, so I'll go through like the vocals, the lyrics, you know, the structure, the instrumental parts, etc. Just simply because it's good practice for me, because I'm back into doing those for my main videos as well. Yeah. But we'll just get started, shall we? I don't know how many we have in the queue. Queue is open. How about that? Yay! I'm glad to hear your enthusiasm, Rumshaker. I appreciate it. Yeah, you too, man. It's good to see you too. I actually was looking forward to chatting to people today, because it's just been a quiet New Year's. Not in a bad way, of course. No, but we'll just get into it. We've got Omabala. Thanks for your request. I should also be having... There's a little bit more of a delay with the chat, in the sense that I'm using the low latency as opposed to the ultra low, because I was just kind of looking through a few things and trying to figure out some stuff. And apparently I learned that sometimes with the low latency stuff, there can be some buffering issues, which is good to know, I suppose. You know, it's good to know that, I suppose. That's looking okay. And that can go there. Yeah, good, good, awesome. And so now you guys can also see the next person in the queue as well. So we'll see how long this lasts. I'm just trying to find sort of regular ways I can sort of maintain this for future streams, but let's do it. So this is Amabala's request of a track from Tyson Yoshi titled That Guy. Let's do it. With production from Silver Strike, I think.
Hey, Silver Strike about to light it up.
Nice.
Yeah, I got these questions. Oh no. How do you know that guy? Know that guy? I'm jealous deep inside. 他怎么打给你？打给你 on a Friday night. Haven't seen him before. Trust me, he's not your type. How do you know that guy? Know that guy? I'm jealous deep inside. 他怎么打给你？打给你 on a Friday night. Haven't seen him before. Trust me, he's not your type. How do you know that guy? Know that guy? I'm jealous deep inside. Oh, deep inside.
Kind of cool to use multiple languages. Great inclusion of extra guitar track here. 试着去解读你每一字一句，手机里的每个消息都会让我心碎。Know that guy, know that guy, I'm jealous deep inside. 他怎么打给你？打给你 on a Friday night. Haven't seen him before. Trust me, he's not your type. How do you know that guy? Know that guy, I'm jealous deep inside. 他怎么打给你？打给你 on a Friday night. Haven't seen him before. Trust me, he's not your type. How do you know that guy? Know that guy? I'm jealous deep inside, oh deep inside. Yeah, 别听外界流言蜚语，我知道你也不确定，想知道我所有关。How much context am I missing because I'm not aware of how the language works? It's not a complaint, I'm just curious about it.
想花一辈子去回答你 Come on girl, I'm telling the truth. 说真的，心总是对你荡漾。As time goes by, 希望有天发现我留下线索，可以看见是特别耀眼的我，你千万别放过，请你别再跟他联络。他能够给你的不多 Give me your name 用你的名字写一首破千万的情歌 How do you know that guy? Know that guy? I'm jealous deep inside 他怎么打给你？打给你 On a Friday night Haven't seen him before Trust me he's not your type No, 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 no How do you know that guy? Know
Nice
that
little
guy?
video
I'm
gamey
jealous
sound there
deep
for a bit of...
inside 他怎么打给你？打给你 On a Friday night Haven't seen him before Trust me he's not your type
Okay, that was dope. I've also turned off autoplay so that I don't automatically have the next track afterwards, which maybe seems counterintuitive, but it's simply just so that it doesn't, you know, cause even more copyright, more copyright claims. So that was Tyson Yoshi, That Guy, which was Omabala's request. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. What do we think this track is about? Get the art up on the screen as well so you guys can see that clearly from Tyson Yoshi. So I think this is effectively about Tyson being jealous of another guy that the woman's with. He doesn't think the guy is worth that much, but he's also struggling with those complex feelings. There's a sense of loneliness, but it's also, I feel like there's more context that's being supplied in these either Mandarin or Cantonese parts, if I'm not mistaken there. Hang on. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So I was just trying to make sure before I said that. But it's too late anyways. So I think that's what the track is about. The vocals are really kind of like cool, calm, and collected. We're trying to maybe seem a little bit more sort of low-key than we're actually feeling about the situation that we're in. And I think that's a smart idea. It's kind of relatable to a certain extent. You don't want to be that guy who's sort of overreaching or seeming too desperate. So I think expression-wise, it makes sense. There are some vocal melodies. A lot of the focus is on rapping, but I think having a bit of extra melody in the mid-range is kind of nice, especially with a lot of those kind of harmonic textures in the background. So ultimately, I feel like it's quite sort of a sensible, well-thought-out vocal performance. At 2 minutes 48, Oh, he wrote this song about his now wife back when he was in the friend zone with her. Well, there you go. Thank you for the context. I really appreciate that. That makes a lot of sense now. And congrats to him for being able to pull through that, you know, for being able to pull. The structure itself at 2 minutes 48, I think it's right within that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot. There's absolutely no sort of filler within this. I like that there's again, probably further context in those parts I'm not sort of aware about, but having the vocals in English kind of gives someone like me who's kind of less sort of like linguistically talented a chance of sort of figuring out what's going on. I think it's more about sort of the groove of the kit in this one, as well as some of those playful textures like the kind of like the coin sound from like the video games that we heard that were kind of more of a sort of like an air candy-ish kind of component, nice sort of transitory in between device.
Strike, bout to light it up.
I like the producer tag as well. It's cool to feature the producer at the start of the song, so you know it's kind of a team effort. And there's interesting sort of background layers, these kind of melodies there that provide a sense of sort of compositional sort of sophistication to it. Like kind of like the chord note 1 and 2 4. That's 1 2 3 4. I don't think it's half time, or it could be a really slow 8th note groove there. But the key accents are still relatively subtle, yet they provide a nice sense of sort of pace regardless. I like the guitar tones as well. There was an interesting effect on them that made them seem almost a little sort of like retro or vintage there. A little bit of kind of tasty overdrive or distortion on it, was having a sort of like nostalgic tone that I think suits well within the ether, and it's got a bit of reverb on it as well. Do I think the autotune is slightly overdone? I think that if they didn't have some of the synthetic kind of digital sort of coinish textures, it might have been a little bit too much. But I think they're trying to find a nice balance between some of the analog and the sort of electronic parallels. And so I think that, you know, also, I think if we tried to be a little bit more sort of virtuosic with the vocals, it might have. But then, of course, a lot of rap and hip hop's kind of really leaned into the autotune as a stylistic device at the same time. I think that it's cool. It's a style choice for sure. I agree with Rump Shaker on that, but I think it's also a good question to ask Weber, so thanks for doing that. I think the kind of jazzy inference there is just a nice way to add a sense of kind of like spice and pizzazz to like a late stage of the song. I think the 808s are well balanced in the mix as well, and the drums have a nice mixture of different cymbals, kick and snare patterns there, as well as claps and sort of rims that work well within the genre and add a sense of rhythmic kind of like diversity to it. Oh, and that little bit of kind of falsetto there. Like there's these sort of like things you hear on a second basis, and I feel like this track's got enough going on within it that you could have different experiences on it depending where you're at. I like that a lot. I think that's really neat. And there's like really kind of like subtle background vocals as well, which have a nice kind of flavor and paddish affectation to them. Just very easy to listen to. But they add a sense of depth to the mix as well. And these kind of plink, plink, plonk, plonk, plonk things that work really well alongside the coin sort of like special effects there. And it kind of almost makes it seem like Love is a Game, I suppose, to a certain extent. But I like sort of compositionally that we don't just repeat the same sort of like stack of instruments the entire time. Sometimes we have a guitar focus as like a sublead. Other times we have the keys in the background sort of being sort of like nice and sort of supportive. And ultimately you're just left with a track in general where I actually put the art up there so you guys can see it. Just you have a track in general which is just very sort of like refreshing, I think, both from with the, you know, with it being kind of like 7th oriented, trying to not be too strongly in either direction there. It's just a wonderfully produced track which has effective vocal processing which work well within the genre without coloring the voice too much. I think that going between the sung and rap styles with the occasional overdubs as well is just satisfying. It's nice to have call and responses and additional lasted as well as the subs I mentioned. No weird resonant frequencies within the frequency spectrum. The music surrounds you in the stereo field as well, so there's a lot of life to it. There's dynamic range to it more from sort of a composition or the production perspective because it's quite a tight mix, but, you know, it's nice to allow without pumping to the bus compression, limiting is handled. I don't think he needs to sign to a label at all. I think that this is an independent artist who has like a really sort of strong position where he is, and I enjoy listening to his music. Thank you, Tom Abala, though. I really like that track. I thought it was really cool. And I think that was just the right length for what it was trying to sort of accomplish. Just gonna make sure I haven't missed any requests. With Weber as well. Anything else here? Got Harry G. Harry as well. And then we've got Tyler the Creator with Jacob Wrestle God. Awesome. All right, so on to track number 2 now, aren't we? We've got a LCC85, which is neat. What do we have from LCC85 here? He was never meant to be a music artist, but somehow ended up just being one. Yeah, that I've commented on the label part, but I think life's interesting. You never know where you're going to end up. I think it's just good. I'm grateful that people take the chances and see how it kind of works for them. So this is about LCC85. Misses one finger. That's interesting. I don't know. Oh, and the artwork. Yeah, he is, isn't he? He's only got 4 fingers there, eh? That's interesting. Good job catching that, eh? Yeah. I sorry. It took me a moment. So this track is Shenjian, The Death of a Love Brain, which is cool. Let's do it. Thank you to LCC85 for the request. Get that art up there. It's so subtle, isn't it? Fantastic build into that. Wonderful use of head voice and vibrato there. Parallel major. Ah, phenomenal. Phenomenal transition. love those chimey guitars in the background and how ethereal they sound. Nice. So I feel that was an incredibly enthralling piece. That was from LCC85, the request of Shenjianan, The Death of the Love Brain. I'm not necessarily sure what the death of the love brain means. Maybe it's the death of believing in love. Maybe it's the death of being a lover. Hi, Peeping Tom to it 2233. Hopefully you're well. Happy New Year. There is currently no way to pay to get a song heard apart from through Fiverr, which links in the description for that. But these are free reviews today. It's just a thing I'm doing on a weekly basis at the moment to listen to new music. Thank you, though. I appreciate that. It's about someone who once loved with obsession, self-destructive devotion, only to later realize that the intense love was empty, rooted in insecurity and ego, and ultimately something they had to let go of. Thank you for putting that forward. Brutal. Yeah, really heavy lyrics. It explains how frantic they become towards the end vocally. With that in mind, what the track is about, as LCC 85 is so eloquently sort of like communicated, there's a sense of consistent anguish through the performance, quietness at the start, but as we go through the piece we build up and we become more sort of comfortable with our vocal performance, but in a way where we're feeling we really need to express ourselves. It's like an angst and urgency there, and I think that considering the subject matter, that makes a lot of sense. You know, a person going through a difficult time, there's inherent beauty to the suffering, though, which is such a sad thing because you don't want them to go through it, even though they understand it's a necessary process for them. But you can just hear how like intimate it is. It's almost ASMR-ish how quiet it is. But then the music also surrounds them in the stereo field. There is these instrumental components, which I'll talk about in a moment, which are tremendous. And I like the fact that we stop the vocals to have that guitar solo in the late stage, which I think is also very effective. As if we know I've said enough and we need another way to voice it. But ultimately, just very well communicated. I like the diversity of the different ways that we communicate, as well as the different levels of intensities, expression that we have. So it's very, very good. It's a very interesting track, sort of structurally. You have different verses and choruses, but the different verses have different affectations and moods. And I think it's more of a chapter sort of approach as opposed to trying to sort of like create a catchy sort of pop or like rock song. It's a song where it really is a journey for them, and they're furthering their own sort of understanding and going on their own sort of like developmental journey through their grief. And I think maybe the guitar solo, if I'm not mistaken, is a letting go. I could be wrong. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a powered ballad kind of like sort of like perspective there, Shaker, for sure. But you kind of get the feeling from all those different instruments at the start that we're kind of building into this sort of realization, this epiphany. And I think you just get so much at the start with that kind of this chorus, like modulated guitars, these very kind of chimey, warbly notes there. It would be very, very difficult to sing Chun Chun because Shun, if I'm not mistaken. So because you have to not only be able to perform that technically well, but you also have to be able to make it believable, and you also have to make it compelling to listen to for someone like myself who is not as familiar with the language. I'm not saying you have to sing for me someone who doesn't understand the language, but for me to have such a positive kind of like opinion of a track without knowing what it's telling me indicates that it is sung majestically, that I love the sound of it without needing to know what it means. But just those kind of multiple dreamy guitar takes with different textures. I mean, just there's a lot to talk about with the guitars, and I'll be here for a very, very long time. It's one of those songs where there's a lot of little nuances to sort of go over, but I just like that they're individual kind of simple concepts that just overlap wonderfully and very effectively with each other. I like the steel string acoustics as well. It provides a more sort of earnest, kind of grounded approach to it. I like that they're in different positions of the stereo field between the left and right sides of the headphones. I think that's really clever. And I like that there's also a tom focus as well with the drums. We're not trying to go too bright or sort of like powerful with those. We're aware that this is the start of the song, and if we kind of put too much forward in the early stages, it could just become a little bit too intense. I think it afterwards, going into that extremely quiet part, is just very much a person alone in their room kind of figuring this stuff out and trying to sort of come up from that. And the piano is so quiet, and that's also, to be fair, a production decision, but also a compositional one where you have the piano trying to sort of like either self-soothe or resonate with what the singer is trying to say. And you have those really subtle kicks, and the tone of the kicks aren't overproduced here. We have a drum kit which is trying to sort of breathe its own life into the mix there. It's definitely an acoustic kit. You can hear the room sound to it. The bass has a phenomenal presence in the piece. I like how resolute and bright it is. It's nothing is trying to be too dire. You know they're going through a difficult time, but they're trying to provide this equilibrium between the kind of reality or the sadness of the lyrics, combined with just how pretty it is. Because it's a very pretty song, I think, you know. And even when we have the whole entire drum kit come in, it's never too heavy. And even those chorus sections there, we might have more oomph as we go along. I mean, like, even with the kind of like jazzy, kind of bluesy, sort of like hammer-ons and pull-offs and bends, and kind of like, it's definitely a more of a melodic guitar solo there. And I know that's such a basic thing to say, a melodic guitar solo. Of course, guitars are inherently melodic, but we're trying to be a vocalist as a guitar. It's one of the purest forms of solo, and it works so well within this type of music. And that final calling out in their upper range there before the guitar responds to that, almost like the hand of God coming down to touch the people below. And you can hear at one point, I remember the piano coming over the sides of the stereo field, like towards the center. And I know that I mirrored for you guys. It's just because if I have myself on the other side, it's a bit awkward with the green screen. But just, man, stunning music, dude. Stunning music. Just the way that we know to color and articulate with different instruments, and we know how to do that underneath just a really well-voiced guitar solo that's incredibly well played. It just simmers in the ether as well. It's not trying to be too sort of like buoyant. It's almost like the thoughts in our head, the kind of innocence that we've lost trying to escape into something else. And you hear the drums there just as a final note. And I like the way that it's been produced, because just there's so much reverb on a lot of different instruments that just kind of sounds like feelings of waves coming over you. It's an incredibly sort of like technical performance on the drums that builds as we go, but that's the entire premise of the track as a general. It's just these feelings building and growing into something that kind of becomes overwhelming until it sort of climaxes at the end. And we let go at that end with the kind of like that main sort of guitar riff kind of like pushing ourselves out. Tremendous piece. Beautiful. So ultimately, I feel across the board, a lot of it is played in really well. It's a nice sort of like authentic performance from everyone involved. I think, Jacob, you asked if it was live. I think the way to answer that is that even if it wasn't live, they were going for that kind of live sort of studio aesthetic with the tone of it. And I think that's so important because I just think with this kind of sound, this kind of topic, if you overproduce it, it's just going to sound a little bit too kind of clinical here. And I don't think they were going for that, especially when you consider how well produced it was. But thematically, I think that the riff itself kind of lends credence to the feeling soaring with a lot of the mid to upper range resonance there, with a lot of those kind of lead melodies there. A relative attempt at simplicity with individual elements there, sort of working with those major and minor intervals, or like maybe sevenths as well, because there were extensions in the chord progressions. But ultimately, especially with some of the bluesy kind of leanings, some of the guitar solos, and the more kind of raw tone to the vocal performance, you get a feeling that we're just trying to, again, just find the beauty in our suffering and kind of work towards that light that we're seeking as we let go of the weight, kind of like we're letting go of the weight and we're rising up with the music. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering is tremendous. I love the production of it primarily because, as I mentioned, it's not too clean. I like that the vocals are well kind of recorded and they clearly can sing, and they're not needing to apply sort of post effects to try and sort of clean it up or kind of yeah, we'll put the art up on the screen. I'm trying to remember to do that so you guys can see it as I talk about it. I think that's the best way of doing it. So thank you for reminding me, LCC85. I'll try and do that for the other ones. I'll probably forget, but I'll try to remember. But just this, the way that the vocals aren't overproduced, he's allowed to sing and sort of like explore his vocal range, and there are reverb and compression EQ parts as well. It's not completely sort of clean, but done in a way where it's meant to sort of seg with the various bass and acoustic drum and all the various sort of guitar tones, which are well niched within the frequency spectrum. Music surrounds you in a stereo field. It just, there's like mixing decisions which show an incredible expertise, such as when the vocals kind of sign off into that guitar solo, knowing how to get those levels to go across as smoothly as that is tremendous. I love it. I love it so much. Just, you know, there's no mixing issues. There's dynamic range for sure with how quiet the piano goes. And just, it's nice and loud without pumping, so the bus concentration and limiting was handled. I just think that, yeah, it's probably my favorite, it's probably one of the best tracks I've heard recently. And again, that's without knowing what the track is about outside of the explanation I received so graciously. But thank you to LCC85 for putting forward this track from an act named Shen Jianan. Hopefully I'm not butchering the pronunciation too much. The title, The Death of the Love Brain. Now I am going to thank you. Thank you to I presume Westchester or Peeping Tom 233. It only shows the kind of tags for people. I thank Happy New Year to you too. I thank you for the donation. Happy New Year to you too, Happy Man Jacob, as well as everyone else that's come along to this live stream. Hopefully you all are well, taking care of yourselves, having a great time with friends and family. Man, it's been a while since I logged into Ko-fi. Do you guys have any New Year's resolutions? Might have asked that already. Okay. 6, 8. Oh, Peeping Tom, you feel free. Thank you again. I've just checked on Ko-fi. If there is a song you want reviewed, please let me know and we can do it. I'll just put like your name in the list here as well so that we can kind of have that here. I'll leave a slot for you there so that it's added once we get there, okay? I think the same old gym every year for me. Yeah, I don't know about you guys. Gym's good. Exercise is good, man. It's time for Rump Shaker's request with Angel's Wrath from Lollipop. Let's do it. Oh, you're welcome. I think it's beautiful. I can't technically find much, if anything, wrong with the song. I think that the foundations are covered and there are some parts which excel. So thank you again for your request, Elsa85. And thanks to you, Shaker96, with a song from Lollipop titled Angel's Wrath. Thank you. Cool, girl. There we go. I'm going to start that again as well so I can give it an honest listen. I was just making sure I had everyone in the queue. Let's do it. Heavy as hell, man. Very different from the previous track. I mean, it's brutal with the sub bass, eh? Hell yeah, man. Great transition to a guitar solo here. It's kind of interesting. I'm going to try not to pause too much. Just the mixing decisions within this track are fascinating because there's some parts where it's very, very low end oriented and just thuds and hammers, and I can imagine it being live is the same. But then you hear the guitar solo sort of pop out over top, and then you can hear like kind of phase or kind of like the effects chain kind of meeting it. Major modulation there. Fantastic use of blast beats. I mean, the drums are just so dominant. And it is like Wrath coming from above. Tremendous. Okay, that was Angel's Wrath from Lollipop. I mean, just look at these lyrics. I'm sick and tired of being treated like trash. Keep on pushing me and you're going to feel the angel's wrath. I mean, it's straightforward. The music, it communicates that very well across the board. I think that the kind of the way the way that it's just so ferocious outside of the kind of robotic kind of synthetic vocals there, I think it's a really great choice tone there. It's not even trying to necessarily be musical or like sort of stick to the scale that would make sense with the key signature. There are notes that are kind of almost deliberately dissonant to showcase just how chaotic and relentless it is from both like the person telling you how you are to everyone else involved. Yeah, it's again, like, don't get me wrong, I think it sounds fantastic and they can clearly sing, but it's been a deliberate sort of like textural decision to make their voice sound like that. It's really cool. Really neat sound there. And I think that if you try to do clean vocals with a song like this, especially with some of the kind of like electronic sort of elements within it, it just needed to be kind of saucy, in my opinion, in order for it to fit and also for it to be memorable, as I do feel this is quite a memorable track. I can imagine or understand why you fell in love with it. It's a very unique piece. Structurally, it's definitely a journey. In this adventure, it's almost sort of like through composed, where you just don't know what's going to happen next. It's not trying to sort of repeat itself or be too sort of reliable or predictable. And I think when you have the kind of concept of the wrath being discussed and then being thrown down, that makes total sense, you know. I mean, you've got those strings coming in with the really crispy blast beats on the drums from the start there, and it's very tense and dramatic, and you don't even need to be told that there is going to be a divine punishment in order to understand that it is coming your way. I like, as I've gotten used to it and sort of accepted the way that it's been produced, I think that the low end resonance, the kind of like the push of the sub bass, with it just kind of deliberately sounding a bit louder when some of those mid to upper range elements come in, it's just ferocious. And I think they were going for that kind of gritty, kind of like brutal, you know, quote unquote tone that I think actually suits the moniker suits really neatly. The crown fits. And those kind of power chord elements there with the distortion are ferocious, and it's just such a neat kind of contrast to the strings that we have through the piece. And it's not just that the entire time. There's a mixture of different sort of like double kick oriented, kind of like full drum kit explorations. There's also some electronic kits aside from the kind of acoustic. There are some electronic parts which almost have a sort of industrial kind of electronic phase. The to and fro pads that we have in the later section, that later transition there, are wonderfully mysterious, and you just don't entirely know where you're placed. And I like how the keys cascade in that solo section there. I love that it's kind of almost kind of invoking a sense of curiosity with not knowing what's happening next before the final set of blast beats. It's just, it's like a nice kind of palate cleanser before you go back into it. You're almost sort of like not sure how things could get worse from the perspective of the wrath. But I thought that that kind of like string modulation there, where we go to the major tones, was just fun. It just invokes a further sense of kind of uncertainty about it, and you just are really left kind of wondering what is happening. There's a sense of confusion from a listener's perspective as well. It's definitely a track where it was very organic. They weren't trying to make a song a certain way. They literally were just doing whatever they wanted, and it worked. And I think as well, having an almost kind of like 80s kind of thrash sort of styling or approach to it with the tremolo picking and the kind of slarish kind of chaotic nature to the guitar solo was effective too. You have that connection to a lot of what can be expected with the type of drum guitar, tone, rhythm guitar parts and drum stylings there. But the phasing and filtering we have there is almost sort of psychedelic in contrast to that. There's some parts where you're kind of in the ether kind of mixing around, and other parts where it's slapping the crap out of you. But there's like a menace to it outside of the major or minors. And so if I was to sort of talk thematically about it outside of these components we've talked, and I'm sure there's additional parts I've missed, this is a very kind of like complicated piece. that would have taken a long time to write and produce. We have a minor oriental leaning there that's almost Phrygian oriented, which is meant to evoke a real sense of danger and destruction. And any sort of like major turns are meant to sort of like say, hey, you think you're good? Oh, look, there's kind of a manic kind of like mind-bending element there, and back to the blast beats. It's just we work with flat seconds and diminished chords, and it's just, yeah, it's feral, but I love it. I think it makes sense considering the context. The studio production, as I mentioned, especially with the folks on the lower end with some of those really kind of intense, and the sub drops as well, because I'm pretty sure there were some sub drops, just knowing to sort of slam the headphones and the speakers and reinteractions to parts, but allow other elements which are less kind of like low end oriented to float. That kind of dynamic range from an actual sort of compositional perspective, as well as a production one, but to deliberately know how to force things and leave those resonant frequencies in there in a way that is effective is a masterstroke. And it's nice and loud with unpumping, so bus compression limiting is handled. But then again, it does pump sometimes, and at times where it does pump, it makes perfect sense. So ultimately, just a really satisfying piece, very different to what we've had previously. And I look forward to hearing more of Lollipop in future. I feel like I didn't say enough about this, but I'm also getting the feeling that if I say more, I'll be over-explaining parts. Oh, there's just so much cool stuff, man. There's so much cool stuff in there, but thank you. That was my thoughts on this track from a Lollipop titled Angel's Wrath. Thank you to Rumpshaker96 for putting this piece forward. I really appreciate it. Awesome. I'm gonna go back as well to start to put these in the playlist. So these songs that we're listening to will be in the fan request playlist on Spotify as well. No, go back there. So yeah, if you, just in case anyone's wondering, we did the fan request playlist back ages ago. And you guys, there's like hundreds of songs in here. So if you're looking for new music to listen to, I would thoroughly recommend checking this out. It's just so you guys have new music if you can. But it's going to be all there, okay? From now on, we'll add to these whenever they're a Spotify request. Cool. I'm taking a long time to do these. I am doing lots of talking today. That's okay. Let's yeah, I'm just going to look through here, make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm liking the devil horns. It's also been cool to just see people chatting and talking. There's probably not enough time. I'm realizing that like the kind of format for these song feedbacks is a long form one, and I'm kind of taking a while to discuss them, but I'm trying also to not over explain stuff. Can someone recommend the Lux album by Rosalia? Yaslan and Dujar 6991. So just so you guys know, I know that like paying for stuff, especially on a subscription basis, isn't particularly fun. But the Patreon that we have down here, when you sign up for the $12 tier on Patreon, you can get an annual album review of your choice for no additional cost. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. I'm not trying to sell the Patreon. It's just literally, in addition to monthly custom music reviews, you also can have an annual album review. So if you want that, it's yours. If you don't, it's fine. But it's just something I've included. And that's why, for example, we reviewed the Leifei album. It's because don't know how you wanted that poured, as well as the Plastic Ocean one from Jacob. That's why we did those, is because of our patron requests, which I appreciate. But yeah, they're just $12 a month USD. But yeah, anyways, just because I've had people ask me for album reviews recently, I feel I should put that forward. I love your in-mix reaction. Love seeing people explore unique but amazingly talented people. Yeah, same. I also like that a lot. I think it's really good. We got Blue Dinner Box 370 though. Let's do it. There we go. We're going to do Blue Dinner Boxes now. We've got Leifei. We've done that. Oh, so we're actually Gonna get rid of that one because that's a duplicate, isn't it? Yay! Let's do it. So we got loot in a box with board from Leifei. Let's go. More Leifei today.
Why don't we call it for
Yay.
what it is? Can't remember the last time we kissed, and it tickled my heart. I think that it's best that we spend time apart. I just yawn, listening to you talk about yourself again and again.
I like how relatable it is.
Bored of this love, oh I'm bored of this talk, and maybe you're just way too vain to be interesting, baby.
Phenomenal
keep
guitar takes.
talking, but nobody's listening. Don't mean to walk out the door, but baby I'm bored.
It was a bold choice not to resolve to the 7th there.
Did you know I wept in my room last night? Bet you didn't know you make me cry, 'cause you're so self-possessed, charming at first, but you made me depressed, so I'm leaving in the morning, 'cause I'm bored of this love, oh I'm bored
Phenomenal
of this
tail on that one.
talk, and maybe you're just way too plain to be interesting, baby keep talking, but nobody's listening. Don't mean to walk out the door, but baby I'm bored. You followed me out and said, darling, don't leave. Your
Great double tracking.
monologue woke up the street. I'll marry you someday. You're perfect for me. I got in my car just to drown at your plea, 'cause I'm bored of this love. Oh, I'm bored of this talk, and maybe you're just way too vain to be interesting, baby keep talking, but nobody's listening. Don't mean to walk out the door, but baby I'm bored.
Pretty sure I've been that guy before, eh? I think to be fair, this is not in defense of whoever she was talking about. When you're younger, you just you know, you misconstrue how to communicate with people. And so sometimes I think everyone's a little bit sort of self-obsessed when they're a bit younger, kind of figuring themselves out. I think as you get older, you learn not to be so. But yeah, I think that's part of growing up, is learning that, you know, you got to grow up. So this was Dinner Haze, Blue Dinner Box's pick for today from Leifei, title board. This was off of the album titled Bewitched, the Goddess Edition. I adore it. I think it's a tremendous piece. I don't need to, because I'm more familiar with the English language. I think it's just about her just, then maybe they had an idea or a concept of things working out with this person, but they're just so miserable that they just cannot handle having anything to do with that person anymore. And I kind of get what people are talking about with LCC85 saying, is her delivery always like this? I love how she actually sounds a little bored in her voice. It's Yeah, she's gorgeous. Absolutely. Lei Fei is absolutely gorgeous. But what I like about Lei Fei is that expression is absolutely just so sensible. It's just so intelligent. There have been decisions that Lei Fei has made throughout her career, such as trying to, bring jazz back into the pop and kind of fuse them in a way which is just absolutely just one. Like there is such a need for music like this. It is so inherently calm and pleasurable to listen to. It's just beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. I love it to pieces. And you get the feeling with Lei Fei that she is bored, but also it's helped because the actual note choices and voicings of certain things in the chorus and verse passages, the way she sings is not uninteresting. There are so many wonderful melodic tales in here where we can sing notes or lines cleanly, but then in other points we're just flourishing within are kind of like variations of parts, and we have like lots of different ideas while sort of sticking to the main components that make a track inherently catchy. Just we're so flexible with our head and chest voice and our range. We know ourselves and our sort of instruments so well that basically Lei Fei does whatever they want. And there are vocal harmonies and parts where the music needs to sit and kind of have presence and purpose, but it's drama and tension, and where it's very sort of nostalgic, but also just soothing. It's almost like Lei Fei is self-soothing herself, soothing herself. So I mean, like there's so many other sort of interesting things going on compositionally, such as the various guitar riffs and like the key and just, but we'll just it's a wonderful vocal performance. I don't think Lei Fei misses. I don't think they miss. They don't miss. They're just tremendous on the mic, and yeah, they've just grown and gotten bigger, and I'm happy about it. Just that part there where we're performing an entire sort of like harmony with some counterpoint parts and sort of some tracks going over the others, and we've just got a kind of an R&B-ish phrasing to that main line there where there's just a break, but there's just such good use of space with no real estate, no wasted real estate. At 3 minutes 30, this track feels too short. It flies by in like 10 seconds. With verses and choruses and everything, but instrumental breaks, and it's just wonderful.
Why don't we?
That call and response there for Lei Fei, and then the guitar, boom, 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 with her singing those three sort of like boom, 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 and the guitar mirroring that kind of extension, that kind of rise upward. But then it does that part there.
Why don't we call it forward?
It's just so cool because it's like things come together. It's like we had these thoughts, and then the reality is the music, and then it comes together at the end. And that's within the first 5 seconds. We're so confident in our capacity as a performer that we know we're okay by ourselves, but we're allowing other things to have room to breathe.
Listening to you.
And you compare the start of it with just how sort of like low-key and down-tempo it is. Using the hi-hats and the kicks and snares on the drums with like the brushes. And it's just so kind of like somber. Like we're kind of walking ourselves. I think it's a triplet feel, isn't it? It is like, no, it's not triplet feel. It's like it is a triplet feel, 1 and 2, like a slow dance kind of feel, like we're slow dancing through the boredom and our kind of realization of how kind of sick of it we are, the situation we're in. But the guitarists have these wonderful arpeggios that have a similar flow to the pacing. Are they working in 16th triplets in that part? Because that's the case. That's really neat. That's just flourishes rhythmically, but also providing those sort of core triads or sort of extensions in a way that is different to what we've had before, and eliciting a further sense of kind of like,
Bet you did. 'Cause I'm bored.
Is it mainly drums and guitar and bass? And like the vocals are so soft and kind of like they're so pretty and fluffy, and they kind of form a string layer in a way that is just I mean, I think there are some keys in the upper register kind of playing certain notes, but like the guitar, I think it's cool that we have the jazz with just mostly a sort of guitar bass drum focus. I feel like piano would have just been a little bit too obvious for this. It's just very much sort of low key, Leifei, just kind of on their own with the guitar, the drums, and the bass, providing further kind of like context and with it, because I feel like it would have been maybe a little bit too empty without the drums to kind of propel us forward, even at a sort of a tender pace. And there is bass, right?
'Cause you're so self-possessed, charged.
It's an electric bass. Yeah, so the bass is just playing those root notes there. And I think, again, when you have the line, if I'm not mistaken, about...
And maybe you're just way too vain to be interesting.
that third, the tritone modulation up with the slide there on the guitars is just so cool. It's just that little bit of tension before we kind of go back to the smoothness of the chords afterwards. And Leifei goes up with those. There's a wonderful sort of cohesion and chemistry between those bits, and just, yeah, very easy to listen to. Very easy to listen to. The studio recording, that's instrumental performance. The structure, no, we've done the structure. Thematically, I think that extensions usually work well within the jazz genre. You know, they're kind of a stylistic kind of need for it. You can't really get away with just the minor triads, but it's also it elicits the complexity that they're having about trying to figure out the situation. And I think that if you had just sort of normal minors, it would have just been a little bit too dire sounding, a little bit too depressing. So it kind of shows a potential for there to be like a change or adjustment, or like maybe things for them to adjust.
Perfect for me.
I think that goes alongside the upper register, the vocals kind of trying to sort of pull themselves up. And I like the double tracking in certain parts as well, because they added a little bit of extra kind of oomph to the piece, like a little bit more sort of presence for Leifei in there.
Nobody's listening. Don't mean to.
Yeah, we do have keys there, absolutely. But the keys are a sometimes thing. They're an additional bit of kind of texture in the upper range there to build a track and provide a bit more oomph there. But they're very delicate as well. They're not overproduced, you know. Again, and just I think the use of the stereo field as well, more of a production thing, but yeah, thematically, yeah, I've spoken about that. Again, the use of the tritones is more of a sort of a dramatic effect, but even then the guitars aren't too heavy, so they've found tonal equilibrium. Studio recording, mixing, and mastering is great because we have a singer who can just explore their range wonderfully, very comfortable within a hidden chest voice. It's just an authentic recording there. They're not overproducing it or trying to sort of like fix it in post. They don't need to. The vocal takes are done in a way where there's very little reverb, and it's just great projection and placement of certain elements there and vocal control. The guitars, bass, drums, and keys are nicely notched within the frequency spectrum and stereo field without any issues there. There is incredible dynamic range to this in a way where it really does just kind of sound like a live performance. And it's nice to know that pumping, but only some parts. It's not meant to be a loud song. It's not trying to be in your face and bombastic. It really is Leifei figuring this out in audio format, and just a pleasure to listen to. Great sense of warmth in there through the way it's been recorded as well. We're not trying to sort of be too clinical with our EQing. Yeah. That was my review of this track from Leifei, titled Bored. Thanks to Blue Dinner Box 1370 for the request. I'm a little bit out of practice with this, but we're good. We're doing okay. I agree with that. I think that it would be like the jazz tunes you'd hear in a dimly lit club. And I can understand why Leifei is relatable. I think that's a big part of a brand, is trying to be relatable. I think that Sup, Andres, welcome to the live stream. Good to see you too. I'm trying to get back into weekly live streams. I'm a little bit out of practice with them though, so I've been kind of yapping a little bit today. I'll try and be a bit less yappy in future, but I also don't want this to be to kind of throw the track forward and get it out of the way. I don't want to kind of rush through them and kind of half-ass them, you know. Hopefully everyone watching this is having a happy new year. Let's do it. Got this track from Hi P2Q Avocado, titled Man the Fur. I think. Oh, good. Well, it just means that we're going to be here for a while. I think that what I've noticed is that I spent the last year doing more sort of like reaction content and kind of leaning into it. By the way, Hi P2Q Avocado, I can't find this song on Spotify. I'll give you a minute to kind of let me know, because if you can find it. I'll go the other way. What if I do it that way? No, I can't see it. Avocado, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. Buy the fur. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see this. The reason I'm saying this kind of weird stuff is because it shows this to me. It doesn't show your actual names. It shows your @. It shows your username. So I apologize if people are like, why are you calling me that? It's, yeah. But what I was sort of talking about really briefly is that Buy the Fur? Is that it? I'm just trying to figure it out here. Because I've got Buy the Fur here, up here, but it isn't showing me it. And I just realized that if I don't, because you guys have mentioned that you like, oh, thank you, cool. Oh, thank you. Oh, thanks guys. Just, I'm going to finish my thought process real quick. If you guys, a lot of you guys subscribe to the channel because of the song breakdowns. I realized I wasn't really doing those anymore. So I figured I'd go back to them. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I realized that if I don't do what you guys signed on for, when I enjoy doing it, but like if I switch what I'm doing and ignore what you guys want, when I'm happy doing both, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. It just means that these live streams are going to be longer and there may be less songs reviewed, but I figure at least they're being done properly, right? Yeah. Anyways. Avocado Man by the Fur, thank you. Hi P2Q. I just realized I'm dumb. I didn't have the space afterwards, so I went Hi P2Q Avocado Man. I get it. Cool, we're good. We'll continue, but I get it now. Cool, thank you. My bad. I love the fuzziness of those pads, man. Avocado apple cake. Avocado apple cake, not my day. Interesting use of rain foley here. Not my day. I mean, I understand how the storm comes after not my day there. What is the avocado apple cake? I have questions about this track, which, as we now know, is from an act titled The Fur, the song called Avocado Man, thanks to High PTQ for their request there. How do we spend your 10-year-old birthday? Is that 10-year-old birthday as in their birthday was 10 years old? How do you feel like being a man? How'd you go out without friends? Is it about getting older and kind of struggling with that? Is it about an avocado man kind of getting kind of, I don't know how to describe it. What do you guys reckon this track is about? I mean, I think it's about someone getting older over time and the observations of this person getting older and realizing that the birthdays are just different, I suppose, as you get older. I suppose the apple cake is that kind of referencing that? I'm not sure. It's interesting. We've got the art here. I think there's an inherent mystery with that kind of rise of that pad there. But we'll talk about the vocals first. I like the vocal technique here. I think that it's effective in the sense that they've got great sort of like presence for the mix. Hinged voice is done well. It's more sort of conversational, I suppose. It kind of almost seems kind of vaporwave-ish to an extent. And like we're constantly have a similar sort of intensity despite a lot of the stuff that's going on around us. I like that the vocals aren't there all the time and that they're relatively minimalist. It's like you kind of are given time to think about what they're discussing after they say it. Yeah, I think it's more sort of something to consider or talk about as you sift through your memories. I think they're kind of like sub-layerish kind of backing vocals there are a nice additional bit of kind of like color in the high end there, and they just make the track more interesting through that sort of separation there. And I think that especially when you've got a lot of these kind of like vintage kind of synth layers over top as well as the drums and the bass, there are a lot of components which have already been included there. Just again, even though it's a 3 minute 17 track and we're not sort of overcomplicate, like when we don't need to provide too much sort of compositional variety there in order for a few different parts to be effective, the kind of A and B side between the vocal takes and the synths and drums and everything else on their own. The time we spend there kind of communicates the inside joke as it needs to, and it just sounds really pleasant as an alt lead, I suppose, to some of the synth layers and the other parts on top. It sounds nostalgic in a sense, I think, because of the kind of processing of some of those kind of like the synth pads. They sound very 80s-ish. And it maybe kind of takes you back to remembering what your birthday used to be like. And that's a sensible sort of decision in concept because of looking back at how your birthdays used to be and looking back over time. But it's also just a nice kind of majorish tone which invokes a sense of maybe melancholy to a certain extent. Like it's very bright sounding, especially with those kind of chimey acoustic guitar tones or like electric kind of single coils. The way they're strummed on the left side there, accenting certain starts of bars. And the use of like the rides, the kicks, the snares for the main sort of accompaniment, like for the 8th note groove there, is just meant to sort of kind of slow dance your way through these feelings or thought processes. With like the kind of like tom fills, kind of like being nice sort of transitional elements there to go between parts. And a lot of the guitar takes, being asymmetrical, are on the sides of the stereo field as opposed to the center, simply to provide space for the vocalist to say their piece. I think that that's just a sensible decision. Working with those major or minors, you can kind of get a lot of the context you needed simply from listening to the singer. Outside of it maybe not being immediately apparent what the song is about. I mean, I agree with I just as describing someone's childhood not being that enjoyable. Yeah, I could roll with that. It kind of also sounds like their adulthood hasn't necessarily gotten better either, which is kind of there's a kind of interesting kind of grittiness to that synth sequencer. They had the bum 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 bum, where it's not perfectly in time. It's like someone's actually playing the keys on a synthesizer as opposed to quantizing it to kind of have it be melded perfectly in time with a lot of the drum bass takes there. I think that's sensible because it kind of makes it seem a bit more sort of lifelike and live. It just makes it more interesting. Things aren't perfectly quantized either. Sounds a bit less robotic. And like it never becomes too intense, which I think is more sort of trying to encourage the listener to not see this as kind of more sort of in your face or more kind of like it's trying to sort of walk your way through a dream. What else do I want to say about this? Yeah, I mean, like again, we've talked about the tone of the synths and how they reinforce the major and minor triads within this. It's trying to overcomplicate it. It's being more of a pleasant kind of dreamy experience there with the reverb tails and other things, making it sound kind of misty and pleasant. Thematically, yep, no, major minor oriented there without trying to be too sort of like heavy. Studio production wise, I like that it's not overproduced, and I've said that a lot today. There are effects changes of certain elements, such as the guitars and in the keys and the synths and stuff like that, but to be done in a way where it's trying to invoke a sort of mood rather than trying to sort of sound pretty for the sake of it being more sort of like quote unquote modern or commercial. I don't think they were necessarily worried about trying to sort of like appeal to the listener outside of the core songwriting decisions that they made there and the leveling and EQing of elements there. The vocal was kind of simmering in the ether and kind of like being a nice contrast to other parts, but no nice contrast, I suppose. Like, no, because they work in the mix as well. But the leveling was good. The positioning of elements asymmetrically within the panning and the stereo field was nice. I liked how things went always just either side. There was dynamic range to this as well. Nice and loud up pumping. And I think that the mix in general was more to invoke a style or a period that they wanted to go to rather. Yeah, I feel like it was more of an arty piece than anything like that, which was an interesting sort of like direction for them to go in. And yeah. And like even when the drums get a bit more intense near the end, it just kind of simmers. Yeah, really pleasant piece. Thank you to High PTQ for sending through this track from The Fur, titled Avocado Man. I'm pretty sure that I've put this track through onto the playlist there. Okay, it is. You're welcome. I feel like I'm running out of steam a little bit. I really need to build my stamina back up, man. Oh, goodness. Oh. Got to get the analysis muscles back into gear, dude. I'm trying to also cut down on coffee. So I don't think I'll be able to do the whole list today, just because I feel like if I do the whole list, I'm going to kind of half-ass some of them. But there's so many songs here. Oh. what can we do here? Because I do want to review these tracks. I could always do a part 2 tomorrow. No, I can't. No, I've also got other stuff I need to do today as well. Reviews are really busy at the moment. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 more songs. I'm going to do 3 more songs. I'm going to do them properly. And then tomorrow, I'll do like a part 2 live stream where I don't take new requests, but I do the songs that are remaining in the queue. And if we have time, we'll do some more, okay? Yeah, I just don't want to half-ass it. You guys have put songs through, and I want to respect that. And I feel like if I come back to it tomorrow, we'll do another set. And then what I'll do is I'll continue to try and become more efficient at these so that I am better able to kind of get through them a bit more sort of quickly, whilst also not kind of missing stuff out, you know. So I'll add this one as well here. Cool. Pretty sure that's it. Yeah. Cool. That's all right. So we'll do 3 more. What have we got? But thank you to all of you who have put tracks through. It's just also a long time to wait for people, eh? You know? Avocado Man the Fur. Yeah. Okay, so we've got this next track from Fantasy, which is Escape to the Void from Sepultura. So we're going to do that one now. Oh, for sure. I think that I like that it's busy because it's cool to listen to a lot of new music. I think I'll make myself a coffee next time as well. I'll make myself a coffee and we'll be good. Although I said it, no. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I may have a coffee next time or like an energy drink or something like that just to make sure I'm all good. And then I'll do 2 hours and then hopefully not crash. But we've got Fantasy's track here. This is from Sepultura, titled Escape to the Void. Let's do it. Let's go. Immediately different. Can you hear that sizzle to the guitar tape? I love the variety of the guitarists though, man. It's great. I mean, the vocal style is so visceral, dude. It kind of sounded like it, eh? I think they were toms. Just really highly tuned toms. those gallops are ferocious, dude. Man, I love how rambunctious it is. So that was Escape to the Void from Sepultura, recommended or requested by Fantasy. Thank you for your request. I appreciate it. This is very different to the previous track we had, wasn't it? Okay. So let's... What do we think this track is about? I think this track... The pest in the eyes of death follows us all. Is it Escape to the Void as in this is death, we're escaping after death? I mean, I look at my face on the other side of the counter, my face falls down in pieces full of worms. It's so brutal, dude. It's so vicious and visceral. The imagery is so vivid. And it's kind of interesting because the vocal styling is just so feral. It's just so raw and raucous and harsh, but it suits it so well. The decrepit nature of the expression of it just makes it seem all the more horrific. The pest in the eyes of death follows us through the dirty streets of blood, begins to eat us, decaying our bones. How will we escape if the void covers our lungs? It's wonderful. Such vivid imagery there. It's so articulate as well. We are buried in the spew trash for ourselves. I mean, damn. I mean, what more can you say? I think that if I hadn't had the lyrics inside of me, though, I don't know if I'd be able to understand what the vocalist is saying. If I'm honest there. It's just a little bit kind of quiet or a little bit less kind of prominent in the mix. But at the same time, I don't necessarily feel like that's a bad thing. It's like if you're listening closely to it, you kind of get it. And if you don't listen closely, you can just enjoy literally everything else that's going on. But that kind of rough, kind of harsh texture to it sells both the kind of like the horror of what's being described there, suits the brittle nature of the guitars really well and the heaviness of the drums, and ultimately I think is extremely effective. So the vocals are really well done. I understand how they work with the lyrics. Very easy to follow along to that. I think structurally it's just very kind of we mentioned the transition there is a bit unusual, the transition. I think that's a deliberate kind of thing. There are all these different chapters and stop-starty bits to just, I think when you've got a lot of power behind all the elements, it's kind of fully pushing you full bore. You kind of almost need things to kind of slow down and come back in order to have kind of change so that the listener doesn't get too used to it. It also allows you to play a lot of similar patterns on some of the drum parts, for example, with the kick snare patterns, in a way where it's kind of very thrashy with the gallops, but at different speeds, it has different impacts, I suppose, is the way to sort of describe it. It also, when you have those rhythm guitars sort of like alternate picked with the chugging as quickly as you did with the power chords and everything like that, it can be a bit fuzzy. So having some parts where the tempo slows down allows you to sort of appreciate the heaviness and the pulse of it a bit better, I think. I mean, like we mix with a different sort of like some double time parts, other parts are more sort of 16th oriented with like the double kicks as well, with the guitars having a similar sort of like ferocious kind of spicy tone to them, with the mixture of different minor and chromatic kind of like orientations. Lots of kind of shreddy guitar solos and stuff like that as well. And you can kind of hear the fizzle of those rhythm guitar parts there, how they kind of, there's a zest to them that comes not just from the way it was recorded, which is very kind of like very old school, not looking for a pretty kind of distorted guitar tone. If you had that kind of tone nowadays, it'd be almost controversial in certain aspects, but that, which is a shame, because I like to imagine someone kind of recording that on a kind of dusty amp in a room. When you think about how the music are described in the story of it, you kind of want the guitars to sort of match that tone. And I think, honestly, the power chord elements are a little bit more sort of straightforward in a way, which I think is beneficial for the listening experience, because it doesn't overcomplicate it. Despite it makes it more about the groove of the piece, which I think is sensible here. The tempo shifts, it's all about groove, isn't it? Even the guitar solo part there is very kind of unusual, I suppose, in the sense that a lot of it's kind of like tremolo bar tricks and wheels and and it's not trying to add a lot of color into the mid or upper ranges there. It's mostly trying to show the chaos and the fermentation of the evil there that's involved. I want to talk about the drums as well there. Actually, it's a production thing, isn't it? But just, yeah, there were lots of different chapters in here that typically revolved around the minors. If there were lead guitar breaks, they're usually chaotic and very spicy. And while, again, we paid attention to majors and minors and Phrygian modes and had flat seconds and stuff like that. It was all about the speed and the kind of velocity of it and the intensity behind that, the kind of chaos as we discussed the things within the story that was told there. It's meant to kind of kick your teeth in a bit, I think, with the noise of it. You know, the noise, the power of it. So thematically minor oriented makes a lot of sense there. If you'd had a happy sounding track like this, it would have maybe even sounded a little bit more kind of like insane. I mean, the unison bends we have in this section, I mean, like, even then when we do have like sort of upper range kind of bluesy kind of like sweepy bits, it's like major oriented in a part where it's mainly sort of minors and Phrygians. So you kind of are left with it feeling a little bit kind of insane, like you're kind of spiraling a little bit, almost like we've had a revelation, but the revelation is that the void is to go into the void. But like ultimately extremely well played without a note out of place. The studio production is very sort of like it's from its time, like 1987 was a phenomenal time for this type of music, and it cuts at you, and it's visceral, and it's unfiltered, and you either play well or you don't. And like the reason I sort of wanted to mention the drum toms is that those toms on the drum kit are very kind of highly tuned, and they do sound like hand drums. So I agree with what we're sort of talking about there, but it kind of provides a nice contrast to the kicks and the snare tones. It almost makes it seem a little bit more sort of like unique or original because of that. It shows that we aren't necessarily worried about trying to find a sound that we think suits the style of genre. We're trying to build our own sort of tone. I think decisions like that are part of why Sepultura was so successful. They really need to carve out their own niche in a time where it was still kind of busy. And effectively, nothing but love for it. I think that, again, there are resonant frequencies in some parts where the recording could have been a little bit cleaner, quote unquote, but we aren't trying to record a Mariah Carey album here. We're trying to record Sepultura's a thrash album, if I'm not mistaken, and feel free to let me know if I'm mistaken on that genre classing, but just generally it captured a live performance that was really well played. It didn't overproduce anything there. It left it as real as it could and as authentic as it could. They wouldn't have gotten away with doing too much kind of to fix it in post. It just needed to be done well the first time. And it's nice now with that puncture bus compression limiting his handle, but it's also not squeezed. But it's how do I say it? It's just right. So thank you to Fantasy for putting through that track from Sepultura titled Escape to the Void. I loved it. I honestly I think I'm starting to appreciate Sepultura's music more the more I listen to it. And go added to the it's already in there. Never mind. What have we got next? After that really cool song, we've got I go here. We've got Casey, Eason Chan with the Heritage Orchestra. Go. Okay. I mean, I probably could do YouTube, but if you want me to do Spotify, that's fine. We'll see. We'll do. Yeah, now we can do YouTube. It's fine. I was looking at a Charlie video. Oh, we'll go for here. So YouTube.com/. Oh, okay. Copyright. Yeah, usually is copyright. There we go. Yay! Thank you to Casey1243. I appreciate it. So just a gentle reminder that we've got two more songs to go just before I take a break. And then we'll be back tomorrow to do the rest of them. So should be good. Should be good. I don't want to play the list. I don't want to have the playlist. There we go. Let's do it. Eason Chan with the Heritage Found Orchestra, Air Day version. Magical, isn't it?
我唱得不夠動人，你別皺眉。我願意和你約定至死，我只想嬉戲暢遊到下世紀。請你別嫌我將這煽情奉獻給你。 還能憑什麼擁抱？若未令你興奮，便宜地唱出寫在情歌的性感。還能憑什麼？要是愛不可感動人，俗套的歌詞煽動你惻隱。 誰人又相信一世一生這膚淺對白？來吧，送給你，叫幾百萬人流淚過的歌，如從未聽過。誓言如幸福摩天輪，才令我因你要呼天叫地，愛那麼多，將我漫天心。 日日拋到銀河，誰是垃圾？誰不捨我難過？分一丁無贈我。
Oh, fantastic transition with the toms.
我唱出心裏話時，眼淚會。
Prominent sub bass though.
要是怕難過，抱住我手，我只得千語萬言放在你心，比渴望地老天荒更簡單。未算罕有，誰人又相信一世一生這膚淺對白？來吧，送給你，叫幾百萬人流淚過的歌，如從未聽過。誓言如幸福摩天輪，才令我因你要呼天叫地，愛那麼多。給你用力作20首，不捨不棄，還附送你愛得過火。給你賣力唱20首，真心真意，咪高放到音樂動容，無人及我，你怎麼竟然說？ K 歌之王是我。
I mean, is he tearful right now? Is he?
我只想跟你未來浸在愛河，而你那呵欠絕得不能絕，絕到用掉我。
Yeah, he is tearful at the end, isn't he? That was a really big song for him, wasn't it? So that was recorded recently, September 2025. I mean, thank you to Casey for putting that track through. Eason Chan with the Heritage Orchestra Air. So what is this track about? Because he was really emotional at the end of that, wasn't he? Really emotional at the end of that. I do feel for the guy. It seemed like it was an incredibly important song to him. So I'm not sure what the track is about. His vocal performance was exquisite. Again, like he built up as we went along. Very comfortable in his head and chest voice. No complaints whatsoever about his approach. It was very soulful. He had a range of expression there, which seemed which came across really authentically within the performance. Didn't need help in post. It was a live performance as well, so he just needed to play his parts well, and he did. And like his head voice is so heavenly, man. It's just so smooth, and there's like a tenderness to it, which I think is expressed well regardless of the language barrier. But I do also think that a lot of it is like communicated additionally because of how well the actual rest of the orchestration is performed there. It's not just Eason on stage, although I'd happily listen to him play. It's also everything else that's involved. Again, like, and a lot of the development does come instrumentally from literally the instruments there. The journey that you go through the track is built up as we crescendo, but it's wonderful, man. Just honestly, he hits the notes he needs to really cleanly, and makes the most of it, whilst also, I think, trying to commit to equal placing with everyone else who is playing alongside him. It's just a very kind of well-spirited and wholesome adventure that we have with this piece, and it's an absolute pleasure to listen to without any sort of like genuinely. And even those parts where it's just him and the strings there, he just captures your attention the entire time. It's exquisite. According to LCC85, it's about someone who hides their heartbreak in real life but pours their pain and unspoken love into singing karaoke songs because that's the only place they can express their true feelings. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I suppose for him, maybe the parallel that we can pull from that is that he feels that same way about when he sings as a vocalist. He maybe struggles to put his feelings into words, so his music is an outlet for him. And I think that's just it explains why it was such a huge thing for him to sing this, and for other people to sort of, not only for that, but to other people for them to sort of resonate with him. For them to sort of listen to be able to play their instruments and capture that mood in a similar way, which is wonderful. Structurally, really well thought out. Verse and chorus passages there. We have the mixture of strings and oboes and woodwinds there. You have the keys as well there. The instruments are introduced so early into the piece in a way which seems really kind of sensible. If you're listening to this without the video reference there and imagining it, like if you close your eyes, like you can hear the dun 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 dun, like it's building on the existing resources they have to create an extraordinary experience. And a part of that is that we go onto the sides of the stereo field and we allow the strings to flutter there or the keys to be on that side there, and we give Eason space. And I think that's super important there because you want the story to be told despite how pretty everything else is. But it's also finding that midpoint between making really cool, playing cool sounding accompaniment that is meaningful or additive to the experience without outshining the main. But it's also testament not only to the production but also the composition that Eason has that presence regardless of what's happening in those low mids with the string sections there, those held notes there, the smoothness of the playing there, how there's some staccato to choir elements there as we build into the louder mid-range parts. Just his pitch is prominent in where it needs to be. And we have that kind of like that kind of brush of the harp there to sort of change, which I assume might be a substitute for beltry or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Just the way it kind of glows and expands there, and we're adding new elements as we move through it to further enhance the listening experience, but also add more of a sense of adventure to the piece. For those both who do know and understand the language natively. I mean, for me, I love the tone, texture, and timbre of Eason's voice, but it's also just you just feel spoiled as a listener with all the pretty things. And it's like the fluctuation of the intensity of the notes there. You have kind of a pulse and a resonance. There's nothing harsh or uncomfortable there. It's very kind of sort of like ease you into it. And until you get into the drums where like things pick up a little bit. But you also, like you have those question chords there, those notes there, which are like, oh, there's a sense of drama. What's happening here? What's gonna occur? And we have space. And things come up a little bit, and it shows an inherent chemistry between Eason and the orchestra. They are paying attention to each other, and the music is having a conversation with you, the listener. I think the halftime flow of the drums coming into this part is great because it sort of elicits a feeling of, hey, we're picking up the pace, but not too much yet. You know, we're not trying to sort of propel you forward uncomfortably. There's just some kicks and snares now, you know, an eighth note groove, 1 and 2 and. I would sort of meter that I think the electric bass is a little bit prominent in this. I can't hear the kick as clearly as I'd like to, but like I don't think that's a lack of proficiency in terms of the production side of things. I think that was just a stylistic choice to allow the Loyan to be that resonant with everything else. And at least you know they're playing their instruments live. I think it's also got dynamic range to it, I think, so that the kicks are just quiet. So in a lot of commercial recordings outside of live studio sessions, you'll have the drums pushed and compressed, and they'll be more sort of present here. We're not trying to sidechain the kick to the bass. It's very much people in a room playing their instruments to the best of their abilities. And so you get that kind of natural kind of diffusion there, and it's cool, man. But you can hear the dum 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 dum. You can hear that kind of dum 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 dum. But I think, yeah, if you had a drum kit that was super in your face and kind of kicking your teeth, then it would have been like a little bit kind of strange. So just the dynamic range, though, the brass coming in at that part there, that extra kind of like bit of oomph in the upper register, being very intense and a very sort of clear contrast, a juxtaposition to what we had before, with Eason more certain about what he's discussing. Coming into that pause near the end there is just stunning because it just shows, hey, we've got the oboe there, you know, the clarinet or whatever it is, you know, playing a melody behind Eason as a sub-lead. That is just a nice little sort of palate cleanser before you go into the final time of the chorus. Oh, no, never mind. I forgot. I miscommunicated. I forgot that it kind of went down after that and kind of left it. You had the build as the thing that was the final send-off with the realization as the strings played us out and everything else within the mix. Have we even got Christmas bells in there? We do have Christmas bells in there. I mean, that's wild, dude. Christmas bells? We are spoiled for choice in this one. Spoiled for choice. And I think you would need multiple listens through it to really sort of gather the various articulations of certain things and little nuances and intricacies. But like from like a first impressions, it's a stunning live performance, not a note out of place, great chemistry between the individual components, and just it's very well sort of like thought out and presented there. It's a match made in heaven. I understand why you guys like it so much, and I'm glad I got the chance to view it. Yeah, the studio recording, mixing, mastering, production. That's the final thing I didn't talk about, but very, very quickly, because I've said a lot about this piece. It's a song where if you had overglued it, overcompressed it, if you had not allowed the instruments to breathe, if Eason has great sort of presence within the mix, and that is due to down to the signal chain that they have with EQing and sort of a bit of reverb and stuff. But a lot of the other elements within the composition or the performance are left to their own devices. They're not, so there's no weird resonant frequencies aside from the bass, which I still think is totally fine. But it's just an elegant, sort of like regal kind of like occurrence. And I like how things are panned around a stereo field, lots of different instruments in different positions, and they dance between the place, and it's magical sounding. Nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression limiting is handled. And I think, again, as a final note, I don't think you could have actually done this better. It sounded like a Disney soundtrack, to be honest. I don't know if that's a compliment anymore, considering the kind of stuff that Disney's been getting up to recently. But yeah, I adore it. Thank you to KC1243 for sharing this. I'm glad to hear that Eason is continuing to perform as recently as September 2025, and that their music is affecting them like this, and that they care about music so much. This version sounds better than the original one. His voice is more mature. I agree with that. I agree that his voice sounds mature, and I think that he's kind of aged like fine wine in a certain extent, if I'm not mistaken, in speaking out of place. But yeah, we have one more song today from Paul RX6PR9. The last track for today, Treasures, titled Indecision, if I'm not mistaken, or the other way around. Let's do it. Ah, 9 treasures. Oh, okay, right. I gotta be careful about that. That's my bad. It just doesn't put a space after them, eh? I need to be really careful about that. Let's do it. Phenomenal guitar on the sides, dude. Oh, great. Very tallish, isn't it? Great double tracking of the vocals here as well for a bit extra oomph. The time signature is a little bit ambiguous though, right? Is that an Urhu? Deliberate, kind of like pushing. I mean, I think they have absolutely been inspired by Tool if they're not. Horsehead fiddle. Tremendous. Wonderful track. It's a really cool one to finish on, I think. Yeah, there we go. Cool, cool. Added to the fan request playlist. Horse-headed fiddle. Nice, thank you for that. It's got a really sort of distinct tone to it, doesn't it? Haven't really heard that many instruments like it. I like the kind of buzz and drama to it, though. So this was Indecision from 99 Treasures off of the Seeking the Absolute album. I'm not sure what the track is about, primarily because I don't have access to the lyrics here, but also because I don't think... I'm not sure, I don't understand the language, which is fine. I think there was a mixture of different vocal styles within this track that I thought kind of added a bit of mystery or kind of mythos to it. There was some kind of fourth or some, you might have been working with fourths or something like that, or fifths with the harmonies, but they're kind of a little bit sort of uncomfortable at certain parts, or a little bit sort of spiritual, I suppose, almost like we were kind of chanting. And then other parts were sort of very quiet, then kind of rolling with how the kind of like fiddly bits going on the sides of the stereo field with the guitar takes there with the kind of thumping. I think there might have been some sort of thumping going on the rhythm guitar tracks. And there was some sort of like kind of new metalish kind of like vocal stylings at another point as well, which are just a great sort of like palette cleanser, you know, something to sort of switch things up a little bit more sort of aggressive, but nothing too over the top or intense. So I feel like we communicated well, and it was pleasant to listen to from a listener's perspective of someone who's not familiar with the language. And a great use of double tracking there for a bit of extra oomph and parts as well there, just to kind of like have extra presence in the mix. So there is an instant kind of proggy feel to the guitar takes there. And the reason I say that is because of the kind of like the absence of like a discernible time signature. It's just kind of difficult to place the pace of it. You're not really sure how they're phrasing or measuring it. All we know is that we have someone who's kind of on loop, and the vocals are singing over top of that. And you know, there's a sophistication to it, but also a kind of a unpredictability to it. But what I like about this is that, for example, when the bass comes in and they sort of like arpeggiate or kind of work between parts of the scale, they do this thing that's really cool where they add a direction to the composition or riff as a whole there. You kind of go, oh, we're not floating anymore, we're moving in this way. And it's a different kind of feel or groove to what we've had with the separate section there. And they do this in various parts throughout this. It becomes a bit more easy to sort of follow along to the where we're headed as we go along, especially when, but then also it doesn't, because there's various chapters to this piece. So structurally, I think it is through composed, and I think that works well. With indecision being the title, I can only surmise that it is about someone trying to figure out the situation they're in, and that kind of toing and froing. It just, yeah, it's logical, it's sensible, and I like that the kind of strings or the horse-headed fiddle that we have over solo somewhere. Is that the horse-headed fiddle there with like the hand drums and stuff like that? It really is an interesting, fascinating song, isn't it? You really aren't sure what's going to happen next. And yeah, it's difficult to really kind of like talk about in a way that's succinct. Again, we play with meter well. Interesting use of various sort of 16th triplet and rhythmic devices. It absolutely is experimental, Jacob, for sure. I like that with the catchier kind of vocal melodies or kind of double tracked parts and the louder parts with the distorted guitar, I like that they're more straightforward, because it offers listeners who maybe aren't as used to the experimental kind of proggy parts a safe harbor, something to sort of cling on to. And like we have the heaviness again of those kind of like distorted takes working with sort of octaves or sort of tapped parts there on the guitars, which is very sort of distinct again from the sort of thumped parts we had earlier. But it's kind of another turn or twist in the tale. To kind of go away completely from the drum kit though with the double kicks and have the kind of hand drum elements sort of be more sort of like forward is great, because it offers an extra bit of depth and dimensionality to it, and it's almost like, hey, we've gone through this gate, what's going to happen next? It shows dynamic range there, things aren't the same loud the entire time, which is also a composition as well as a production based thing. And there's like a pace there that's carried by the accenting on those hand drums with the guitar on the left side of the stereo field playing chords and triads. It's cool because even with an Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened there. My internet just like cut out for a bit. Which was kind of annoying because I was in the middle of kind of giving feedback on the song. Right. Where was I? And I think that when things start to sort of like unfurl around the 3:36 mark, it's just fantastic because you kind of have the music kind of explore around you. You've already like one side of the story being told there. And, No, we're good. No, we didn't get banned. It's just my internet, which is annoying because I've got like the router on this. I'm in the room where my internet router is, so I'm not sure why it happened, but I hope it doesn't happen again. It's a bit annoying, you know. Probably someone doing work outside on the cables or something like that. But there's this kind of like slow burn where we have again that horse-headed fiddle, and we have the distorted guitars we had earlier kind of building into like another crescendo. Almost like we needed a moment to think about what we were discussing earlier with the lyrics. And it's a very kind of like distorted, kind of tense, terse, uncomfortable sound to that fiddle, which almost adds a sort of a manic feel to it. But yeah, we go back into that riff there, we tie things together, and I don't know if we make a decision at the end. I don't think we do, but the tempo, or not the tempo, but the kind of like modal kind of time signature shifts that we have there indicate that we're still kind of maybe not quite decided there. So it's an incredibly complicated composition there with a lot of twists and turns through composed, with a variety of really interesting sort of like more sort of like straightforward drum grooves with a mixture of sort of 16 triplets there. Some really fantastic sort of strummed guitar parts and thumped parts there, and lots of kind of power chordy and kind of tapped element leady parts on the sort of distorted guitars when required need be. But we also take a step back with the hand drums and the flutes and the more sort of like traditional elements and provide a more sort of like spiritual kind of higher power element to it that gives it a lot of kind of like I've said this stuff that makes it sort of chapter based, and you just left at the end of the day feeling like you had an adventure. Studio production wise or thematically, I think that the use of the ambiguity with some of the intervals or chord choices there is kind of symbolic of the fact that we don't necessarily know how to commit to it. It's minor oriented, but we play around with majors occasionally, and it's very just kind of as I said, unpredictable there. But we also know to work with susses or more sort of like maybe like octave or fifth textures to kind of add a bit of kind of regality to it. And yeah, I think again, it's such a phenomenal instrumental performance. It's very difficult to be able to play this well. You're left feeling like you've been spoiled, honestly, with this. You're left feeling like you've been spoiled because of how well it is played, the chemistry between the different musicians. And if this is your first impressions with Nine Treasures, and you like the sound of it, you know you've got an entire album to look forward to. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering is fantastic. I love how the different vocal takes, guitars, bass, hand drums, the fiddle, the horse-headed fiddles, etc., that have been captured. I like that there's dynamic range and things aren't the same loudness all the time. I like that regardless of the chapter that we're in, each has its own sort of character and sort of like personality to it, and it hasn't been overproduced or sterilized. I think that we double track when we need to with the vocals. We capture an authentic sort of real vocal performance there. It's nice and loud without pumping, but it's also quiet when it needs to be, and it's glued neatly. And honestly sounds commercial grade. I feel like I've underexplained this, but at the same time, if I just quickly search through it, I think, again, I know I've said that it's kind of almost derogative to sort of compare it to Tool, but it just reminds me of a lot of the early 90s stuff from Tool. And I like that they're sort of playing with polyrhythms or polymeters to sort of make it a bit kind of twisted and subverted. Yeah, Indecision. Thank you to Paul RX6PR for the request. Hi, Amethyst Gamer and 4C. Sorry, I'm actually done for today. I've just actually finished up. We're going to take a break because I'm going to come back tomorrow, but even then I'm just doing the rest of the list because I've got some tracks I need to do tomorrow. Thank you to those of you who came along today to this live stream. Hopefully, I know that I'm getting the hang of being more succinct with these feedbacks. I need to bring a coffee or something like that next time, just to kind of keep my own kind of like, to keep my focus. You know what I mean? Favorite track from today? Oh, it's hard to pick, eh? It's hard to pick. I do like the Leifei song. Aboard. I thought that was really cool. But I also like Shin Jianan, The Death of Love Brain. I thought that was kind of neat. I'm looking through it. Because if we go back here, I just want to go over the tracks we did. Tyson Yoshi, that guy, as well as Shin Jianan, The Death of Love Brain, Angel's Wrath, Lollipop, Bored from Leifei, Avocado Man the Fur, Escape to the Void, Sepultura, Eastern Charm with the Heritage Orchestra, as well as Nine Treasures with Indecision, tracks from Omabala, LCC85, Rump Shaker 96, Blue Dinner Box, High P2Q, Fantasy, Casey, as well as Paul RX6PR. So what did you guys like? What were your favorite tracks? But yeah, it's going big again. Hopefully you guys are having a fantastic New Year so far. Thanks to those of you who requested songs today. Just a friendly reminder that I'm going to be doing another session of this tomorrow. I won't be taking your requests tomorrow. It's just to get the songs done that I didn't do today. I also, I won't probably be doing the splitting of the live streams between 2 days in future. It's just probably for this time, just because I wasn't expecting this many requests. But we'll see how we go anyway. So tomorrow, if you didn't get your track played today, it will be tomorrow, but that's not going to be an all the time thing. It's going to be just probably this weekend thing. Yeah. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic weekend. If I see you tomorrow, I'll see you tomorrow. If I don't, I'll see you when I do. Stay cool. Remember, guys, sorry. Right. If you guys want to check out the playlist and go check out all the songs, they're here. So you can go check out all those parts, enjoy your time with those. There's 670 tracks. And yeah, stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you all in the next live stream tomorrow, or otherwise, Spiderhands out. 3, 2, 1.